BOS.
Cool.
Hello.
Good, how are you?
Good. How's Jonathan?
All
Jonathan
good.
there? Hey, John. Priscilla with us?
Yep,
Yes.
Priscilla's here. She
Okay,
has
hi,
found.
Priscilla. Okay, got it. So I'll call the special meeting to order. Board of Selectmen, March 29th. First thing on our agenda is to finalize the budget to be presented to the Board of Finance at their meeting on Thursday, April 1st, and be heard at a public hearing on April 23rd. The only substantial change in the budget over our previous draft is we have included health insurance for a town employee who has requested it, who is eligible for it, and who was previously getting health insurance through his wife's employer. So anyway, that's the only real change. And again, the Board of Finance has been told about that at their last meeting, but we did need to finalize our budget for them in the public hearing. So is there a motion to approve this budget and send it on to the Board of Finance?
I move to approve it.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
just one comment. I was
Sure.
delighted to see that we were able to hold the mill rate at 16.7. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
Yes, well, that's the Board of Finance's decision, and they're very committed to try to keep things as level there as possible, as long as we can. And we do have reserves that are called to be used as part of this to balance the budget that we haven't used in the last couple of years because we've had some good revenue years. But I think that is one of their goals and one of the things that allows people to stay in Cornwall, move to Cornwall happily, and compares well with other towns, is the relatively low mill rate. So appreciate your support and comments on that, Priscilla. One other thing we have been working on that we'll need to keep as an agenda item that we thought we were going to put in this year's budget is to get a binder for cyber insurance against malware or the town's computer systems being hacked. This has happened throughout the state, and we've been working with our insurance agency, the KERMA, that insures many municipalities in our area. And they've been working with a third party to get not only insurance, but a cybersecurity program in place that we would have to be part of. And so what they're looking at is a 14-month policy. So we would start this May, it would be May 1st, and then June, and then it would be the 12 months of this budget. The advantage of the budget at this point is that we've had a very good year financially for the town. We do have money that is not going to be spent. We haven't touched into our contingency fund, which is in place for this kind of thing. So we could pay for next year's insurance in addition to this year's insurance when we sign that binder. And I think that's a prudent way to do it. So that does not appear in this budget, but it will be something that we will have to put in place as the year goes on. So that was one outstanding issue we had that we still have, but there's a way we can do it without tacking it onto this budget. Does that make sense at this time?
It does
And
make sense.
and I are working on that to get us up to speed, and again, get a real good tight cyber security program in place. So that's really the only discussion I had about the budget as it's drafted. And again, it's up to final review by the Board of Finance, and it's up to a budget hearing. But I think we've done our best. We are challenged in several areas, not the least of which is municipal solid waste, and other issues that have pushed the budget up beyond what it was last year, but we tried to be careful. We haven't been able to give everybody everything they want, but we are still working on it, and we will work to achieve savings as the year goes on. So any other thoughts, comments on the budget?
Oh, sounds good.
Okay, everybody ready to vote? All
Yep.
those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So one thing I wanted to bring you, second item I wanted to bring up to date because we've been spending a lot of time at town office working on an exciting grant proposal project that we have mentioned before, which is called the Community Project Funding Grant. This is a congressional grant that gives communities increased federal funding for infrastructure projects, including roads, bridges, and sewer and public health projects. So the West Cornwall Waste Management proposal would definitely qualify. I've talked to Congresswoman Hayes's office several times this week or last week to get details. And apparently there's no upper limit on the grant. They're not, she's looking for proposals from 10 of her 41 municipalities to carry forward to the Appropriation Committee in Congress, which is chaired by Rosa DeLauro from the New Haven area in Connecticut. So again, there's no assurance we would get this, but again, we could ask for 100% funding. I have worked over the weekend on the grant application, and as has Barbara and Lisa Samant. So we are at this point, and I did talk to Joe Pryor from the Board of Finance, applying for a 75% grant for the sewer project, because again, part of their grant application wants to know if they're going to be matching funds at all for the town. And I've found in previous grants having some skin in the game, some local match makes things look more favorable to the person or the agency giving us the majority funding. So at this point, I would propose to put in for 75% funding, which is a great increase over the potential 45% grant from USDA. And the good thing about this is that we'll know fairly soon because the Congresswoman has to submit her list of top 10 to the Appropriation Committee by April 15th. So, and the deadline to get this in, I believe, is April 9th. And we're going to try to get it in ahead of it by the end of this week. So we have asked town boards and civic organizations to support this grant proposal. Letters of interest certainly help. And so I guess I'm asking for the board's support for this applying to the community project funding program of Congress through Congresswoman Hayes's office to try to get increased funding for the West Cornwall wastewater management project. So is there a second of that for discussion?
I'll second that.
Yes. So again, this may cause us to pause slightly, briefly, our schedule that we laid out at our last meeting to vote. But if we can potentially get another $1 million in federal funding for this, I think it's well worth waiting some time in order to try to lay that out and do our due diligence to try to raise as much funding outside the local taxpayers. And again, I think that it makes sense. We have a good relationship with our Congresswoman's office, and they've been very helpful. And Barbara and Lisa, again, have been getting documents together out to people to write letters of support. So again, I think it may pause briefly our voting schedule, but if we can get this grant, I think it would be very much in the town's interest to do so. So any further thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Priscilla, any thoughts, any further thoughts?
No, I'm happy to second it, and
Oh.
I feel very strongly we need the sewer in West Cornwall, so this is a positive move. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, great. And again, thanks to people that are pulling this together on short notice and having our project at this particular time when we have all the a lot of the engineering preliminary work done. We have a USDA application and already USDA approval of eligibility, puts us in a pretty good position as opposed to somebody that's trying to come up with a project in a very short period of time. So we'll see how it goes, but we should have an answer back fairly soon on that. So anyway, I feel good about applying this for this. And so without
Okay.
any further talk, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, so are there any, I haven't seen if we have community here today, but are there any public comments on these two agenda items?
I had a question, Gordon. Does accepting one of those financial proposals exclude the other? In other words, could you do a community grant on top of the USDA grant?
No, I think it's one or the other because this is under the same grant program, the Rural Development Program of USDA. So as I don't think we can stack them up on top of each other, but the
Okay.
maximum any rural development wastewater treatment plant would ever get, and most of those are under orders to remediation orders, would be 75%. So that's usually the max for USDA programs. And again, we would happily trade up, you know, from 10 to 45 to 75% if that works.
Sure.
But it's basically run by the same agencies that we would be replying. And if we don't get it, we would go back to the same agency and apply under the regular program. But it doesn't jeopardize our funding because I think the turnaround on this is going to be fairly quick.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments? Questions? Okay. All right. Thank you. And
Thank you.
okay. And again, we have a regular meeting with a pretty full agenda coming up next Tuesday. So we'll look forward to seeing you all there. And don't forget, there's the internet connectivity meeting coming up in less than an hour. So maybe we'll see you all there. Okay.
Bye,
Thank you.
Gordon. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank
Good night.
you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.